The following episode of Being the Change is the first in a two-part series about research at JMU. This coincides with the new issue of Madison magazine, which details JMU's continued evolution after being categorized recently as a research university by the Carnegie Commission.
From the get-go, I think what has been an emphasis that I have seen is the student-centered research experience.
Right.
And just from an early stage in their career, the students are getting the type of experiences that a lot of students don't even get later in their career at other institutions.
Sure. Sometimes not even until they get to a master's level.
Exactly.
Welcome to Being the Change, the official podcast of James Madison University, brought to you by Madison Magazine. Each episode brings you stories of how members of the JMU community combine intellect with action to live lives of purpose and meaning. That's being the change.
What's up, JMU? Welcome to Being the Change. Andy Perrine here. Today we're going to be talking about research at JMU. As many of you probably know, the university was classified as a research institution a couple of years ago by the Carnegie Commission, which is part of a long evolution of the institution from our early days as a teacher's college and then becoming a regional master's institution and now fully blossoming into a research institution. I've been around for a while, but I haven't been through all of that history. I've been here for about 25 years, and it's been stunning to watch the university really take its place nationally as a research institution. And here with us to talk about that are two folks that are very integral to the university's research efforts and how it integrates into the overall curriculum. Anthony Tongen, who's Vice President and Chief Research Officer of the university. He's actually in charge of the Division of Research, Economic Development, and Innovation, which is a new division that was created after we became an R2. Anthony, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and then also Rudy Molina, who's Vice Provost for Student Academic Success. He's the Chief Student Success Officer at the university. Welcome, Rudy.
Thank you. It's amazing to be here with both of you.
Well, thanks for being here. And I should note that it's very indicative of how uniquely JMU is approaching its role as a research institution that I'm talking to the Chief Research Officer and the Chief Student Success Officer at the same time. Anthony, why don't you give us a perspective on why that's unique and why it's really expressive of JMU's unique approach to being a research institution?
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. It's great to be here with Rudy. I was originally professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics, which you may see some of my mathematical tendencies coming out in this interview, but we'll see. As I've been at JMU for so long, not quite as long as you, Andy, I've really seen an evolution. But from the get-go, I think what has been an emphasis that I have seen is the student-centered research experience. Right. And just from an early stage in their career, the students are getting the type of experiences that a lot of students don't even get later in their career at other institutions.
Sure. Sometimes not even until they get to a master's level.
Exactly. Yeah. And our faculty do a great job of, since there aren't as many postdocs or graduate students in all disciplines, what they're doing is using freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors to do this tiered research mentoring that is happening at a level above where a lot of institutions have their undergrads studying, and getting students in the labs early, getting students involved early, I think is really an important aspect. And that doesn't just help them become a professor someday, but it helps them in anything they're going to do in the future, whether that's in education or in a job.
Well, Rudy, you're an expert in student success, and you've spent your career at places like University of Chicago, University of Arizona, and you were here just before the pandemic. And as an expert in student success, how important are those kinds of experiences at the undergraduate level?
One thing that I've known to be true in my career is that you have to ask questions in order to have a fundamental understanding of something. And the question, when I first got here about 5 years ago, we started asking about student success was, how do we define here at JMU student success? And what we found was that as we did our world tour of different stakeholders on campus and the community, we found that different people were calling out their version of student success. And we did find some really beautiful commonalities, things that threaded all of this together. Let me point out, though, that one of the things that when we were talking with our academic unit heads about student success, something really critical came out. The question was asked right back at us, what is faculty success? And it was at that point, about 4.5 years ago, where we started thinking about, oh my goodness, what is the relationship between student success and faculty success? So we've come a long way in these 4 years. But the good news is that we've been working really well together. I've learned so much over the past few years just working with Anthony and his colleagues, and then many others too. And one thing that we have learned about faculty and student success is that we have to go down to the people. Who are the folks that we're trying to uplift? How do we support them? And today we have a whole early student success system behind us, but we also have a better understanding of how we can support faculty. And so it's been a pleasure working with you, Anthony. I'd love to be able to talk about some of those projects we've been working on over the past couple of years. Can we go into that?
Well, yeah, I'd like to do that. But to set the table, the sponsored research that's done at James Madison University has increased by a dramatic amount over the last several years, which means that we're starting to draw the attention of some of those funding organizations, federally, corporate and foundation. And Anthony, it's pretty dramatic how much it's grown in the recent history.
Yeah, I think 92% over the last 5 years or something like that, so almost doubling.
That's amazing. And so, getting to Rudy's point about faculty success, this is a great increase in the amount of resources that faculty have at their disposal to find success, and often they're involving students in that. Now, one of the things I think that our listeners will be very interested to know is that, unlike a lot of research institutions, we spend a lot of attention on public service research, and it's like almost 70%, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 70% of our funding last year from external agencies was for public service outreach.
Well, describe, if you would, Anthony, the difference between public service research and, say, bench research or R&D.
JMU is a member of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities, and one of the emphasis areas for that is public impact research. And that's really the way I like to frame the research when we talk about public service and outreach, because that's a framework that is recognized nationally as a way to describe the types of things we're doing. This can be, of course, in a lab, which has applications to obviously very either basic science research or applications of science. This can be done in the community. We work with a lot of nonprofits. A lot of students are very active in that space. We recently, as a previous interview have a space in the Harrisonburg Innovation Hub. So that's bringing our services to bear on the community, as far as the Small Business Development Center, Shenandoah Valley Partnership, et cetera.
Listeners might remember that Dr. Tongen was on the podcast last season.
I listened to that episode, and I'm like, Anthony, you're rocking it, right on.
And it was alumnus Peter Denby who was the force behind getting the Harrisonburg Innovation Hub opened. Yeah.
And I think it's indicative of what this public impact research looks like. And what we're trying to do is not just bring our services, but also what kind of expertise is needed in the community. We have that expertise in our faculty, very broad expertise. And then what we're often doing that's somewhat unique, and I mentioned this earlier, is the students are coming alongside and being not just watching us do it, but being partners in doing that research. I could give a lot of examples, but let me just highlight a couple.
Yeah, please.
I don't know if you've heard of the Gus Bus before.
Sure.
But it's a community literacy and academic enrichment program that's in the Institute for Innovation in Health and Human Services, IIHHS, better known as. And in fact, they were honored at the White House.
I remember.
Not too many years ago. But that's an example where our students and our staff here on campus are serving the community and giving these great examples to primarily K through 5 students in the Harrisonburg area and in the county.
Well, I remember the young student who went up with the JMU delegation to receive that award at the White House when Michelle Obama gave her a hug the young lady said that she thought Michelle smelled nice.
I do remember that. Another example I'll use is one that's actually within the Division of Research, Economic Development, and Innovation, which I should have said earlier on we call READY. So if I ever say READY, that's the acronym I'm using there. But we have something called Virginia Clean Cities, and their primary goal is to improve traffic congestion and air quality, and reduce fleet vehicle pollution by working with localities to replace vehicles with lower emissions. And they're doing a lot of work with local school districts, with electric school buses, for instance.
From your vantage point, how unique is it among research institutions, the way that we're involving undergraduate students in research as compared to, say, some of our peers that are much more widely understood to be research institutions?
A lot of institutions do undergraduate research. There's a council of undergraduate research that lots of institutions are a part of. What I think we do distinctively here is involving students in research at an early stage in their career. And I think because of that, the number of students that participate is also much larger. And especially there are strong departmental cultures, and each departmental culture is a little bit different, but how folks get involved, how students get involved, how they, what courses lead them into those experiences, and then what either that's lower level courses, entry level courses, or upper level courses, and how that is connected with the research. But what I'd also say is what a lot of our colleagues are doing across the campus is in-class research-based projects as well, where our students, even in large classes, are getting these research experiences.
And don't we have data that also show that students who are involved in these research experiences are retained at a higher rate? They get more involved in the curriculum and graduate at a higher rate? Yeah,
we do. And that is actually one of the definitions of a high-impact practice, right? There's HIPs in higher education, right? That you have study abroad, you have first-year seminars. Well, guess what? Undergraduate research is considered to be one of those high-impact practices.
Well, one of the other ones is capstone projects too, right? Tell us how does capstones fit into a typical course, and how does that manifest itself in terms of a research idea?
Similarly, this is happening across campus in very different ways. As a mathematician, we would often have I would have my students either do through the honors program. So honors students often will end with a capstone project, have students write a paper that is their capstone. I think also in a lot of the upper level courses, there are capstone projects that are connected with the material in the classroom, but the whole goal is introducing material and then asking a big question. In fact, this is what if we have an opportunity to think about talk about X Labs later, but this is a lot of, I think, what our faculty are doing, which is asking great questions that are open-ended, that don't necessarily have a unique answer, that allow the students to really get into the details and develop the answer to that question, which is interestingly not always the same because a lot of questions don't have unique answers. And so this is part of, I think, the research experience, but also the educational experience I think our students value so much.
And you mentioned the X Labs experience. We've had Connie Frigo on the show, and the name X Labs derives itself from challenging the students to solve for X. And that can be a real challenge when there's a lot of ambiguity there.
You're speaking like a mathematician. I like it, Andy. Maybe I've convinced you.
I'm coming over to the mathematician side. Well,
let me jump in real quick on this. I think your earlier question about what does set JMU apart in this aspect, because it's a really important question. Actually, I think when I came up the ranks through like University of Arizona, you mentioned Research One. High production in terms of these different science-based and other fields as well. University of Illinois, Chicago, also Research One. And those institutions are incredible institutions. They do have wonderful ways to connect with students in so many different ways. I was actually part of many of those. But what JMU has that is unique and special is that the number of and the percentage of faculty who are excited about, who come here and want to stay here at JMU because of these experiences and working directly with students on these projects is, I think, a game changer for our students. And as we connected back to the grants that Ready is building this infrastructure for, is that we're now coaching and learning firsthand other faculty on how to write these positions in undergraduate and graduate level what do you call them? Student internships, but assistantships is the word I'm searching for. And you write those into the grants on the front end so that when the funds start coming in, you actually are hiring your students. They're getting paid to do the research. And I wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for my partnership with Ready. So these are things like I'm considered to be a junior faculty member. I don't know these things. How am I supposed to learn that if someone who's not more senior than me guiding and coaching me? Well, thank you, Ready, for this stuff. Thank you.
And JMU is becoming sort of known as occupying a niche where faculty who have research aspirations but also want to teach good students are attracted here. And that's one of the reasons why we're, on a lot of our searches for faculty, are turning up some really stellar folks.
Yeah, the ability to communicate research, I speak as a mathematician, it's not always easy.
Right.
And so I think what we're getting is folks who are really good at explaining what they do well.
Right.
And then bringing students along to join them in that. And I think one of the things that we haven't got to, and I want to get back to it because I think it was part of the original question, was how does this support the community? One of the things I think we need to understand is we did an economic impact study in 2022,
right. Yeah.
And the study found that the impact on Harrison metropolitan area was about $593 million from the presence of JMU, and for all of Virginia, $793 million. And we have a great opportunity as we think about workforce development, as we think about these skills that we're talking about that our students have. How do we think about retaining them in the Valley? Do we have the job opportunities that are going to keep them there? How do we connect with the community to talk about what are their needs? How are the students that we're educating able to fill those needs? How do we, this is where I think the Harrisburg Innovation Hub is a great opportunity. How do students stay here to think about their great creative inventions that they had probably while a student at JMU? Do we have the community here that can support them and move them to that next level? And so I think there is huge potential community benefit as we continue to embrace the opportunities that these students, that the expertise our faculty have, and just the JMU community brings to the region.
Yeah, that's great. On a show called Being the Change, that's quite heartwarming to hear.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. How do you even think about getting a second semester freshman to do research?
Right.
And this is something Rudy's already talked about, how he did it. Here's some other example of just project titles that I think help elucidate the really interesting work that is getting students thinking at a very early part of their career about research and what impact that plays. One was called Facilitated Leadership, Establishing and Communicating a Framework. Another one was titled Molecular Sponges, Functionalizing Sustainable Materials to Remove Ions from Water.
This is a first-year student project.
This is a freshman student.
Oh, my gosh.
Terror Management Lab. That just sounds like fun, but I won't get into the details of that. Coding in Space and Time, Spatial Auditory Data Representation, Diversifying the Orchestral Repertoire with New Zealand Composers. I mean, there's just huge breadth. I could go on and on.
I'm guessing that's the College of Visual and Performing Arts.
You got it.
Yeah, right. Wow, that's amazing. Our freshmen are involved in that level of work. That's so amazing to hear. Well, as we continue to evolve, there are a lot of folks on campus and among the alumni who are very interested in seeing us maintain our niche in terms of providing a really high-touch undergraduate experience, but also elevate the intellectual octane through research. What's the future hold for us?
Yeah, I think we're on a great trajectory. We're all, of course, excited about the new president and what the opportunities that brings. As I talk with alumni, I am always talking about just that JMU may be a slightly different place than when they graduated. And I think a great way to keep up with that is to follow, of course, JMU, Madison Magazine, JMU on these types of podcasts, for instance, but also realize that I think the research environment has changed drastically. And I think JMU's ability to partner with organizations, businesses, funding agencies, of course, and communities has greatly increased, and is something we're looking to do more of, really trying to do a better job as we think about that public impact research. How do we bring the expertise that is so broad here on campus, but so deep? We have international scholars on this campus, across this campus. How do we bring that to bear to the benefit of our alumni, of the community, of those corporations and businesses in which we're partnering, and ideally to the nation and to the world?
I think on our end, the future is pretty bright because if you think about where we started off with K through 12, TRIO, and Gear Up grants. Those are in motion. We're really excited about them. Now think about the full student life cycle. If we're starting early in our community, where is the next frontier? Well, now our office is going to be looking at grants that are going to support JMU students. So we just submitted a new grant that we'll probably be hearing back this summer. Another TRIO grant, but it's student support services, and this is for the JMU enrolled student. And we partnered with Melinda Wood and Sean Mooney on the Reddix First Gen Center, and they would be the PIs on this grant. If we're funded.
Principal investigator.
That's right, thank you. If we're funded, they will get the resources to build out their team even more, and they've done amazing work over there. So we're really excited about that partnership. So the frontier is really our undergraduate students, and how we support them. Lastly, as part of this long-term strategy that we built starting off with these grants, is to go into the graduate space. There's the McNair award that we have applied for in the past, but not using this methodology, not using this partnership, and we're really excited about that. We have a little work ahead of us to get ready for that, but we're going to be poised in the next few years to be able to do that. So we're moving right through our strategy, and we're excited for the future.
Well, and there's a lot of change occurring right now when it comes to the funding agencies and how those funds get to universities. So I'd really like to have you both back to continue this conversation about how JMU continues to evolve as a research institution. Will you come back?
Oh, I would love to. I'm honored already. Thank you.
All right. Well, listeners, thanks for being with us at another episode of Being the Change. If you've got some ideas for an episode, you can be in touch with us at beingthechange@jmu.edu. Until next time, go Dukes.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to hear more stories about how members of the JMU community are being the change. Dive deeper and explore countless other stories at jmu.edu/Madison Magazine. Go Dukes!
The Being the Change podcast was conceived by Jim Heffernan, editor of Madison Magazine, and me, Andy Perrine, head of JMU Marketing. Thanks to Jenna Polk and her team at the Rose Library Studios, where the show is recorded by Cody Troyer, Steve Adderton, and Olive Santos, all of the crazy talented JMU photo video team, who then produced the final episodes at the Ice House in downtown Harrisonburg. Original music by 2019 alumnus Neil Perrine. You can find the Being the Change podcast on all the popular platforms where we hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.